Built this home with my own two hands. Help from my friends and trees from the land. Food and shelter the best I can. This right here is where I make my stand. Cause we still got butchers and we still got mills. Got a whole lot of folks with a whole lot of skills. If you ever need help, ever need a favor, well around here you still call on your neighbor. That's how we do it in Humboldt. Yeah, we do it in Humboldt. How we do it in Humboldt.
Good afternoon and welcome to Out Here in the Redwoods. Denise Riles is still on special assignment. I'm your host for today, Patrick Rutherford. We are recording this on a Wednesday afternoon, March the 18th on the CR campus in the Access Humboldt Studios. And my guest in the studio today is Brett McFarland. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you for having me, Patrick.
I want to start off by asking you, how did you get to be out here in the Redwoods?
Oh my goodness. Going way back.
A little bit, yeah. Let's establish, I mean, we're just going to jump right into this, but how did Brett McFarland come to be?
Well, my dad was an officer in the United States Army, active duty. My mom was a nurse. And so we kind of traveled all over, but when I was a kid, we ended up in Washington at one point on assignment at Fort Lewis. And that was the first time I seen the Pacific Ocean. That was when I saw the conifer forests. And I fell in love with the West Coast and with the Pacific Northwest. And, you know, years later, when I was in college, I started my first organic vegetable farm when I was 19 years old, 3 acres of row crops. And after a real tough year, a tough season with the early frost, I was thinking about making some changes. And I started looking for universities that were on the exchange program, and with South Dakota State University, where I happened to be at the time, and I saw HSU on there, and I came over here and checked it out. I went and saw the Saturday market, which as a farmer, I looked around, I'm like, oh, this is awesome, because the farmers market, we were similar sized towns, both college towns. Farmers markets we didn't even hold a candle to what was going on over here. And I started talking to some of the growers, you know, and some of which I'm still friends with today. I remember all those years ago, 20-some years ago, I met Jock Newcomb just as a person, you know, walking the square, and I asked him a little bit about, you know, how his farm was doing, and he told me things that inspired me, and I put my worldly possessions in my 1991 Dodge Plymouth minivan, all the seats out of it, you know, stuffed with it. And I came over here, and I never looked back.
And where does that brought you to at this point? I mean, so how old were you when you moved to Humboldt County?
I was 20 years old.
Okay.
So that was a little over 20 years ago. And I started my first farm in Humboldt that year, sold at the Arcata Farmers Market. We had a little vegetable stand. You know, and that's when I started meeting people in the community. I'd be selling little, you know, bags of lettuce and stuff like this, and I'd have these customers come up to buy stuff from our stand, and they would pull out these big old wads of cash. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was like, well, what do you guys do? And they're like, oh, well, we're farmers like you. And I'm like, I'm like, our wallets don't look the same. I'm like, you know, and that I started learning about what was going on in Humboldt, and you know, with the economy at the time, and cannabis, but I found out you could get a medical card, you know, back in those days.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, that blew me away, because I was used to cannabis being something that was so clandestine, that was so taboo, mm-hmm. you know, and to hear like that it was legal for medical use, and that shaped my history here. I sold at the Arcata Farmers Market for years, and then farming and flash forward, I think in 2012 I had some legal trouble.
Okay.
And I got wrapped up in this case with some folks saying that I did some things. That was it. It was hearsay. And they wanted me to tell on other people, other farmers in Humboldt County, and I'm like, So I went away. I got sent to prison for 5 years.
Okay.
But that pushed me into my musical journey, because that was very frightening for me. I was very frustrated about it. I was angry about that. I was sad. I was scared. It was hard. I'm like, prison? That's, I've seen what in the movies. This stuff doesn't look like where you want to be. So
it's amazing the difference between how things look in the movie and how things are in real life.
Well, man.
How did the process of bringing you to your music? You've built a bit of a reputation through your music here lately. Where did that lead you?
Well, so when all that stuff started happening and my legal trouble started happening, there was this period of time where life was kind of bottlenecking down, and I had a lot of grief I was dealing with, and so I picked up the guitar and I would start singing. It was almost like the only way I could make life bearable, was to sing about what was going on. And some of those songs I still play today, and some of those songs I took with me when I went on the inside. And when I started playing those songs that I wrote about what was going on for the guys inside, it was like lighting a match. It was fun. There was something about it that
these songs that you wrote.
Yeah, and I wrote them for myself, but I saw how they started to impact and really uplift the spirits of those people that I was around.
Could you give us a little example of a couple bars of one of those songs? I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know you brought your guitar.
All right. Well, here's one that I wrote. This is one of those songs I wrote right before I went in. Somebody somewhere said I'd done it somehow, and now the federale boys are hot on my tail. Now I am wanted. They made a warrant for me. They chained my right hand to my left hand, put shackles around my feet, said, boy, you better understand, we got dirt on you now. They took my DNA. They wanted me to name names, to sing like a bird, to tell them every bad thing I'd ever seen or heard. They wanted me to rat. Yes, they wanted me to snitch, to roll on over like a no-good spineless son of a... I think that's a good place to cut it right there.
Thank you, Brad. What's your process of writing, developing a tune?
Well, I feel like it's interesting. I listen to songwriters talk about their process, and some people have a very lineal process. And I feel like my process sometimes is a mystery even to me. But a lot of times it's just processing what's going on. Like that song, I was so mad. I was so PO'd about the circumstances that for the laws to be the way they were, because I really did not, my own opinions was that this plant should not be treated the way that it was being treated, and the amount of people that were incarcerated for it is just a huge waste of taxpayer money, and really, when I came home, it was that they had just legalized it. I literally got released, and when I got out of the halfway house, when they released me out of the halfway house, I get out of the halfway house in Oakland, and I come around the street, and there's a line around the block at 9 in the morning, and I'm like, I asked some people, what's this line for? And they go, oh, well, weed's legal now, so we're just here to, get something from the dispensary. And I'm like, this is a bizarre world, But yeah, my process is often, it's personal. I don't write music thinking like, oh, this is what somebody else is going to think is catchy, or this is what I write stuff that's for me, and in that way it's, yeah, it's personal, but at the same time, when I do that, and that being my process, so often it resonates with people, and then that's part of the joy of getting to share it, is like, oh yeah, I might have started this working through something for myself, but it might help someone else. And like, for example, that song, when I went on the inside and I played that song on the inside, and I started talking about what I'm talking about in there, oh, the guys went, they
Well, you did have a captive audience, so
well,
to speak.
there's places to hide. Yeah.
You had a lot of play, a big hit with your song Humboldt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one for a minute here. How did that come about?
Well, that was another one of those songs that was real personal. The first line of that song says, "I built this home with my own two hands."
Right.
And that I was just kind of feeling this sense of gratitude for what I had been able to experience with the fruits of my labor. But I couldn't get very far, and I was like, okay, but this isn't just about me. I started looking around. The next part is with help from my friends and trees from the land is the next part of that line. And pretty soon I realized that this song was about something that was way bigger than me. It was about this place and our community. And that song, once I started writing it, like I had that first line, and that was kind of floating around for, a little while. But as soon as it became clear, like, oh, that's what the song's about, it was like a day and a half. I just sat down and started writing that song, and just, you polish out some of the pieces. And I wasn't thinking about it, just like it was just coming out.
I've seen the video for it, and people can look it up through your website and on YouTube and all the usual places. I noticed there's a lot of local people in it. I recognize a lot of them. How did you reach out and find all these people that are, I see like Eric Hollenbeck and from Blue Ox and a lot of other.
Yeah.
Is there a special relationship with Eric, or?
Well, actually, yeah, Eric.
Because he's a builder, and
he built our barn doors,
Okay.
and we were a guest on that show that they did with
Craftsman.
with Magnolia and HBO and Discovery Channel. Yeah, the Craftsman. We were a guest on that show. They came out to our farm and when they built our doors, and then we were a guest twice on both seasons because they also fixed our apple press up, and so that relationship, was there. I'd always admired Blue Ox Mills. That place is cool, and their mission and the alternative high school. Like, I'm somebody that had a hard time in school. Like, I did good because I had some teachers that helped me exist outside the mold. But had I not had, Mr. Bonte in biology who let me squirrel away in the greenhouse while everybody was doing, that's kind of, I look at what I got akin to what they were offering, which was hands-on and sort of, an alternative to the norm. And so I'd always admired them in that space, and then to be able to work with them. But in terms of how all those people came to be in the video, when I think of the song Humboldt, and forgive me that we don't have, the royalties aren't split this way, but I think of it as a co-write with the entire community, I do. I think, each of those lines, different people said things to me over my whole time living here, and I've lived in Humboldt much longer than I've lived anywhere else because of my dad's, being in the service and us moving around. So, over the decades that I've been here, the relationships that I've formed and the things that I learned from people, they're all in that song. So when I went to make the video for it, it was an extension of that. And we, there was some outreach for a number, like for Klamath, for example, because we made a series of videos all in that same block, and one of them was Humboldt, but another one of them was Klamath, for the undamming the Klamath. And for that one, we had reached out to the there was a message that went out to the tribe, to all of the people that were employed, and I got a call from the 5th grade elementary school teacher.
Okay.
And said, hey, do you want to come film with our class? And then that film shoot, as we went out there and did some of that footage ended up, in the song Humboldt. And we just, we reached out to people that we saw, me and my team, that we saw as pillars in the community, many of which I had existing relationships with some I didn't. And I'm cold calling these people and telling them what I'm doing, like some of these legends in dam removal, like Annalia Hillman and Missy. Just really, really special opportunities. And we call people and like, hey, can we come film with you? Or the butcher, right? That's hey, can we come watch you do what you do and just have a moment with you? And people were so generous with us. It was probably one of the most special parts of that creative process, was getting to go out, and it took a lot of work. Sometimes we'd be a whole day into trying to get, 20 seconds for that video, because we're filming all the way over here in Wichipec, or we're trying to line up, all these schedules. But it was also, it was so rewarding. And there's gonna be a documentary coming out, because we interviewed so many of those people. Yeah.
What inspired that?
The interviews, or
the idea of having a documentary?
Well, part of it was with this filming. We would invest so much energy into getting somewhere to get a shot, and the shot might be, a music video. You might be using 3-second clips 4 times, and it was like, okay, well, we have 7 hours invested in driving all the way over here, meeting these people, getting set up, getting all of our camera gear set up, and so it was just it wasn't like we hadn't put a lot of thought into it, but once we started doing this, it became so obvious. We started doing a little interview with everybody, kind of like you, asking questions like, what do you love about Humboldt? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your experience. And when people started talking, it made the hair on my arms and neck stand up. Just like, and that's when we knew, me and the crew was like, oh, we're making a music video right now, because that was our goal. But we're archiving all this footage, and we are going to share this documentary. We interviewed Eric Hollenbeck. We interviewed, almost everyone that's in that video we've done an interview with, and for the ones that we haven't, we will.
I did notice that there's so much footage that the video as a whole really showcases the fact that Humboldt is an incredible place to use as a backdrop to film anything. It really, I think it is.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Right.
It's part of the community and the culture and the environment.
Speaking of environment, and what are you passionate about? You're an advocate for a number of things. Tell us about some of those.
Well, I'm a country boy at heart. I love nature. I love wild spaces. To me, that's like part of when I think of freedom, that's part of what I think of. And I've seen so much environmental impacts of industry, and I grieve that. And so, I'd say I'm an advocate for open spaces, for wild spaces, for wilderness. Your best hunting and fishing is in wild spaces. And I feel like, you look, it's not hard, you don't have to look far in Humboldt and see that, hey, these rivers used to be full of salmon and steelhead, and there's hardly any left. It's like the Redwoods. The wild stocks are down to 3 to 5% of what they were. And and so in terms of advocacy, I think that it's worthy to think about caring for the environment and finding ways of doing things that are more in harmony, because obviously, there's a limit somewhere where you keep taking, the things are out of balance. So that's one thing.
I've noticed here in the last few months, you have been involved with some large benefit concerts.
Oh, yeah.
How did those come about, and how did you become involved with such things, and
Well,
what happened there?
the first one that we did in the fall that came together real fast. I mean, normally for an event like we have an event right now. I have an event coming up on March 21st. This Saturday at the Eureka Theater, I'll be playing a concert with my band, and we've known about this for months and months and months and months, and we've been preparing. And that's usually how you do an event. Well, in the fall, we put this event together, Will Jam for Food, with very little runway, just I think a few weeks. And it was a response to, one, the fact that the holidays are always a tough time for some people, and friends and neighbors here in Humboldt County, that there are people that are just, are really struggling to make ends meet and have enough food for the family. And there's been a long tradition in this country about doing things on the holidays for the community. I mean, that's old, that notion. And then this year, with all of this stuff going on, different politics and all this, there was a lot of people who saw their SNAP benefits, take in very suddenly, and we just knew that there was an opportunity to go ahead and do something for our friends and neighbors right here in Humboldt County who were experiencing food insecurity. So we put together this benefit concert in 3 weeks, Will Jam for Food, and it was a success. We raised I think around $13,000 or something like that.
A lot of people came out. I was in the house that night.
It was so special, and it was a different format. It's like there was a house band and then a number of different musicians in the community. We all traded songs. We'd play a song, and then somebody else would play a song, and it was a way to collaborate in community. And that event was organized by Maddie Beck and Brian Swislow were instrumental, and myself were really instrumental in pulling that together. And when we saw what had happened, I think that's a lot of what propelled the next benefit, which was the Arcata Rising. And Brian Swislow in particular, he organized Arcata Rising, and I think when he saw what we were able to do, as a community, and the Will Jam for Food, he had done that years ago, but what we did this fall, it was unprecedented, to pull that much together, and I know it really had a big impact on him, and I think that it inspired him to do what he did, which was organize Arcata Rising, which I got to be a part of. Actually, I got to...
You opened.
I kicked the whole thing off. And there was over 50 performers, and that event raised almost $32,000. I think the official total was, $100 or so less than that. But
I guess that someone threw in the other $100.
Well, who knows? Who knows what? But I mean, I looked at those two events, and I'm like, wow, we raised, around $45,000 from doing some concerts for our community, bringing people together to have a good time, and then also to do this. And yeah, that was really inspiring. As an artist, to get to do that, yeah, it feels really good.
So you mentioned that for people who get to see this before the 21st, you got a concert coming up at the Eureka Theater.
Yeah,
what's happening there? Who's joining you?
Well, this is so exciting. Yeah, this Saturday, March 21st at the Eureka Theater. Doors are at 7. Doors are at 6. Show starts at 7. And there's going to be an opening band, Cowtown Sound, opening the night. And then myself and my band, the Freedom Riders, are headlining this concert. And this will be our first concert in Humboldt since the Humboldt County Fair, which was a legendary, very special night of the community coming together. I'm so stoked to have been a part of that, and it will also be almost a year to the day since we headlined and sold out the Arcata Theater and Lounge, and so this event is going to be. It's a great opportunity for the community to come together and to get to see us do what we do. We're going to be playing some new music. I'm really excited about that. So there'll be some new tunes that this will be the first time they've ever been played publicly. And also that show at the Humboldt County Fair, I know you were there.
I was there.
That show at the Humboldt County Fair was really, really special for so many reasons, but one of which was that the bass player that we were playing with for that show, Lisa Padilla, she was recently swept away, swept away at sea when visiting home, and it was a really tragic loss, and this show is going to be an opportunity for myself and some of the other musicians to remember her and to honor her. And she was a really free spirit, very sweet, very kind, loving, and I know she would want us to keep singing and keep dancing. And my drummer Surya and I, we worked on a song, specifically to honor her, and we like to think we wrote it with her, just thinking about what would Lisa tell us, what would she want. We were grief-stricken. When we first got the news, I was like, I couldn't even believe it. I didn't believe it. I'm like, is this even real? all this AI crap. You're like, this doesn't even make sense. My brain wouldn't even put it together. But, we had already had this show on the books, and Daniel Nickerson with Cowtown Sound was already going to open. And it turns out that Daniel was also in a band with Lisa, so the music community around her, some of that was already in that show. And I called Daniel. I called him the day after I found out, because I knew they were really close and they had done all this collaboration, and so I just started breaking down crying, and later that day I didn't know what to do, so I went over to Surya's house, and I saw him, and he had been crying,
Right.
And we started writing a song, and we started to feel better, and we started to, we really started to feel her love and joy and her spirit, and we put that in the song, and we're going to play that song along with some others, just to celebrate and honor her as a community member, as a musician, and as a friend. And it's going to be a really special show.
Okay. What's next for Brett?
Well, we got the next thing. Almost all I can think about right now is the show on Saturday, because there's so much to do to prepare for it. But in the bigger picture, I'm working on a new album with my band right now. So it's in the very early stages, but aspiring to get that recorded and released this year, and also just got a tour bus. It's just a handshake deal right now, but I actually recently went back and I visited the prison where I had been at all those years, and it had been almost 10 years since I'd been there, and I went back. I was on my way to Pyramid Lake, and I pulled over, and I didn't actually go right to it, but it was right there. I could see the prison, and I knew everything that was going on there, and it kind of stirred some stuff up in me. And on my way home, I saw this old 1946 Beck tour bus sitting there rusting in the wind and the dust and everything, and it was right there. That whole time I was incarcerated, it had been sitting right there. I didn't know it at the time, but it was sitting there right there next to the prison, and man, I went to go check it out. It was a pretty wild experience. I ended up getting run off the property by the owner's wife. But I did eventually get in touch with the owner, and just last week we made a handshake deal on the bus. Apparently this is the rumor. This is the legend that this was the original tour bus for ZZ Top.
Oh, really?
Have yet to confirm that, but I like the sounds of it, and I welcome, when we get this bus in, we'll definitely be taking to the internet to invite the community and anybody to, hey, is this the case? Is this anyway? But we're going to be getting that bus and fixing it up, and
Brett McFarland might be coming to a city near you.
That is the vision.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us out here in the Redwoods.
Yeah, look at these things, man.
I know, and ask if maybe you grab your guitar and just give us a little instrumental and maybe play us out as they roll the credits over the top of us.
All right, that sounds good. Hey, March 21st, this Saturday, the Eureka Theater. Come on out. It's going to be a real good time.
You heard him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only way to say it is to put it bluntly. There ain't another place more outlaw country. That's how we do it in Humboldt.